Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Other Side of the Story podcast, where our goal, our mission is to bring really people's lives that are at a place of success, accomplishment, what they've done in their life has been powerful. And today, you're going to just be inspired by this woman of God's story, I promise you. But that's just our goal. Everybody has a story. You have a story that's watching, listening. I have a story. And we just want to encourage you, inspire you to keep living your story, because greater things are in your life. You can't stop where you're at. And today, I'm just so excited to have Dr. Joy Morgan, who is a great connection in our life, friend, just spiritually, just every area. We have been connected to the Morgans for over 15 years. Matter of fact, I did a previous podcast with her husband, Bishop Dorian Morgan. But Dr. Joy Morgan is an accomplished author. She is an educated, just completed her doctorate in her strategic leadership degree. She has a degree in engineering. She is a co-pastor. She started her own Joy Morgan Motivates. She started her own conference around the country. She has accomplished so much in her life and where she's at right now. And I know today you're going to be inspired by this woman. So Dr. Joy Morgan, I want to welcome you to the Other Side of the Story podcast.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Bishop. Thank you so much for having me. This is just a real full circle moment for me to be on the other side of the story with you.
Yes, yes. You know, you really, and knowing your life and seeing how you have accomplished, again, just some great things, really, and just see where you have started from, I don't know, 20 years ago. It's just been an amazing journey for your life, I know. And I know people that are watching Dr. Joy really need to be inspired, never to stop, never quit, continue to press on, have greater capacity in their life. And I know that you'll be able to share that today, but really, what started you, in growing up maybe to learn about, principles in life that taught you leadership, education, all that? So anything stands out to you as you grew up in, I'm assuming, New Jersey?
Yes, most of my life was in New Jersey, but my father was in the military. And so before I really remember, we did travel a little bit, Biloxi and Rome, New York, and all these places because my dad was in the military, but I don't really have a whole lot of recollection. But most of my time was, I grew up in New Jersey. And people ask me all the time, where did you learn leadership? And I really always attribute my leadership skill training to being an older sibling. Being over my little sister. And from the time I was 4.5 years old, being told, take care of your little sister, look after your little sister. And I'm telling you, I remember, I think it was in high school, I did a whole paper on what happens with older siblings and the leadership that is developed in them. So I really believe it started at that at that young age, and it kind of just really followed me into my adulthood. I really do.
Yeah, so really it's important, like you said, in your childhood, the principles of just having to take responsibility, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that whole that you have responsibility for somebody else. I think that really does follow you. And so I found myself in high school being a part of the student council, being a drum major in the marching band. When I went to college, I was the director of the gospel choir, and people started just looking to me. I'm just one of those people that people tend to look to for direction and guidance. And again, I think that was instilled as a little girl, being an older sibling, and it just has carried with me. So, that leadership has just been something that now I've kind of taken ownership. I am a leader, and decided then, let me really begin to get some formal education around what it means to be a leader. And so I started studying the field of leadership because I felt that was important, that I owed that to those who were following me. So that's kind of really where that love for leadership came from. When I realized, okay, I am a leader. How can I be a better leader to those that I serve?
Well, that's good. So you already saw the opportunity
Yeah.
and to make yourself available to other people, even at a young
Yes.
age. That's so important, because I really agree with you. I believe that how we were, brought up, everybody's brought up different households, whether, there was, mother and father there or not, or whatever. We learned some things, and we learned some things about ourselves as growing up in a childhood. And that's great. So when you
Yes.
got out of high school, what made you want to go to college?
My parents, my dad especially. It was, for some people had choices, and I probably did have a choice. I just never really felt that I had a choice. It was one of those, you're going to college. My both of my parents, they did not graduate from college. And so it was important for them to have their children to go. And so we were positioned from the time we were in school. It was like, you're going to college. And for me, I remember saying, well, I'm gonna go to college. I don't know what I'm a major in. I'll major in liberal arts until I find myself. And my dad's like, no, if you don't know what you want to do, I'm gonna help you find what you're gonna do. And so, I had some level of aptitude in math and science. And so, since I didn't have any direction between guidance counselors and my parents, they were like, why don't you consider engineering? And so I got into engineering just because of that. And I was told that it would afford me other opportunities when you go into a field like that. So, from the time, again, and I think this is just a great moment to pause and say, look at the power that we have as parents to steer and to guide and to direct our children. And although I didn't end up in engineering, the field of engineering taught me so many things outside of the actual, calculus and soil dynamics and things, the chemistry that I learned. But that heart of discipline and hard work and all of that I learned has carried with me as a pastor. So really, my parents aimed me, if you will. They aimed me, and then once I got aimed, I was able to kind of find my way from there.
That's so good. I think what you said, two words about being disciplined is one thing, and hard work.
Yeah.
Just, in the culture we live in today, sometimes it seems like, there's a tendency not to work hard, I guess, from where generations come from, right? So just
Yes.
speak on for a second the importance and what discipline brings to your life and what it's brought to your life that you've seen so far through the discipline and hard work.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea what I was being set up for. And so the difference between me and other school engineering students that I went to school with, I definitely was in a classroom full of people who were smarter than me, brilliant, but they had no discipline. And
Hmm.
because of that discipline that was instilled in me, I finished. I might not have finished with a 4.0, but I finished. And I watched students who I know were smarter than me fall by the wayside, leave, quit, because that had not been instilled in me. And so that whole thing of discipline has carried with me with starting a church with my husband. So many people we started out with 20 years ago, they left the pulpit, they left their church, because it's a lot of work, as you know, Bishop, right? To have a church and to stick with it, with people coming and going and all of the things that it takes to carry an organization, with having my own business, writing books, all of those things come out of discipline. And if I had not, how many people say I'm going to write a book and don't? Because it requires discipline. How many of
Mhm.
us have said, I want to start a business, but they haven't or didn't see it through because they lack discipline? And I want to add the word resilience,
Yes.
because that is, to me, I am also the executive director of the Future Leaders Institute for Girls. And one of the first sessions we've had with them this semester is resilient leadership. Because when I go into the schools and I'm talking to principals and vice principals, they're saying that students today don't have coping skills. That when life gets hard, they're taking their life. They're running away from home because that resilience is not in them to overcome hard things. And so we'll probably get into this, but when I was 17, 18 years old, I was diagnosed with something called Crohn's disease, a very debilitating condition of the digestive system. And one of the things that I think is the secret sauce to me still being here today is resilience, because I learned at an early age to learn how to overcome hard things. It started with something like being an engineer. So, I think that we're lacking that today, and it's something that really needs to be instilled in our young people for sure.
Yes. I love the word resilience. I love the word hard work and discipline because it gives you freedom, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that a lot of us could be so much further along if we knew how to overcome hard things. I just think that many of us could be where we dream of being if we could endure. And I always tell the story of one of my favorite toys when I was a little girl. It was a Yogi Bear. I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I would love punching little Yogi as hard as I could. And I was so amazed and astonished by the fact that it would pop back up. And I remember one time I actually tried to literally hurl my little body and pin the Yogi Bear, punch it back down. And when I got up off of it, so did Yogi. And the one thing the principle that sticks out with me about that is what I didn't know at a young age that I know now is that Yogi was weighted at the bottom. And that's what we really, really need to have an anchor. Oh, come on now. I feel something right
No,
there.
yeah.
That if we would be anchored in something that's bigger than ourselves, we, like Yogi, can pop up after any type of challenge that we might overcome. And that's enter in Jesus Christ for me, where when I encountered hardship, I really got to know God in a real way when I was going through the engineering curriculum. And that's when I was diagnosed with Crohn's. And when I was anchored in the Lord, I was able then to bounce back from anything that came my way.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
It really is. And you're just speaking volumes of teaching to us right now. So if there's somebody, before we move on from that, because I could stay there for a while.
Whew.
So if there's somebody listening right now, Dr. Joy, watching, and they're at a place where, they are talented, got skills, which we all do, but like you said, what separates people that have talent, potential is discipline. So what's one or two things you would say to them right now to go, you know what? If you just do this, or let me try this, is what I found, help me in my resilience, help me in my discipline. What would you say to them?
Well, number one, for me personally, it is my relationship with the Lord. And I don't know where in the world, I think I would be dead. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I think I would be dead if I did not have that relationship with the Lord that keeps me anchored to know that I serve a God who is in control, that he is sovereign, that he is omnipotent, that that none of this caught him by surprise, that he knew the condition that I was going to have, and he's used it for his glory. So certainly the Lord. But if we want to go more practical, mentorship. I think that the people that I have been connected with, people like yourself and spiritual mothers that are in my life, the accountability that I have, that when I want to quit, I've submitted myself to them in such a way that when I want to quit, that I've allowed them to enter into my life and say, no, you don't get to quit. No, you can do this. And so I think we need mentors in our life. So we need to find somebody that we're willing to hold ourselves accountable to when we get goofy, right? And
Yeah.
perhaps we are pursuing something in a way that's not pleasing to God or is not up to our moral standards. I think mentorship has absolutely changed my life. So I would say, again, my relationship with the Lord, and number two, most definitely mentorship. Yeah.
No, that is good. I mean, really, people today need to hear that, because we need somebody that we can be accountable to, and that will speak into our life the truth, right? That will
Yes.
challenge us and give us a kick in the rear end sometimes, just
Yes.
really to, hey, look, get back up. People need that. So thank you. That is so powerful. We
Yeah. And
need
I
our
want
life.
to add, if I can, really, as
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it, that having a vision for my life has also kept me disciplined because I want big things. And so I realize if I want big things, I'm going to have to have big discipline to get it. And so I would also like to just submit that the third thing I think is to do what you love and love what you do. And I think that's where success is born. And so I think when we are purpose driven in our life and knowing what I want in my life, it says, okay, I know what I want. And so are you willing to do whatever it takes to get there? I think that, and when I was in engineering, I didn't love it like that. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I didn't love it like that. And so I had to find what I was passionate about. And that's the word we get from you, Bishop. Passion.
Yeah.
If we don't get anything else from you, you live by way of, and you got to say it like that, passion. And so when I found my passion, it helped me to be disciplined so I can get what I want in life.
I'm just kind of dig deeper on that for a second, because you said something about, finding your purpose and your passion, maybe what you were doing at the time, you didn't love it, and I know, again, when people are searching for themselves, right, trying to find who they really are, and really steer in the right direction. I think a lot of pressure sometimes comes from, especially, put something on that's really not in them. And so there's a pressure, right, sometimes to hurry up, decide what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go in life. Yeah, really, a lot of times it just takes time, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm hearing so many students today. I'm like, where was this when I was coming up, doing
Yeah.
these gap years between high school and college so that they can find themselves?
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is, I went into college, I was still 17, right? I'm one of them late babies, right? So I was a freshman in college at 17 years old, trying to figure out what do I want to do for the rest of my life. Who knew at 17 what they
Right.
wanted to do for the
Yeah.
rest of their lives? And so, the truth of the matter is, I had to find it for myself. My parents, my guidance counselors, go to and do engineering. So I did it because I didn't know, and I praise God that they gave me a sense of direction that could land me somewhere. But the truth of the matter is, we don't really know. You got to find that for yourself, and it stems from your passion.
That's good. So I would tell some people, never give up, never quit about if you feel like you're an idle right now, or you feel like you're just kind of not going through the motions, it will come. Give
Yes,
yourself some time and
yes.
keep pressing forward. I always say this, keep doing your provision for your vision, having a vision for your life. And you have exemplified that so powerfully. You really have, Dr. Joy. So just kind of talk about for a minute your passion to be a lifelong learner. That's how I look at your life. You're a lifelong learner. So help us understand to never quit learning, have a growth mindset. Speak on that for a second.
Wow, that's so good. I think from being a leader and recognizing that you have people behind you, whether it's a little sister or whether it's a congregation. Bishop T.D. Jakes says something that stuck with me years ago. And he said, you want to make sure that you're flying high enough so that the people under you aren't scraping their knees. And
Okay.
that visual has stuck with me. I'm like, wow, because we really can serve as a lid for people when we don't fly higher. And so, as I'm thinking about the people I serve in leadership, I recognize that they're looking to me as an example as to how high they can go. So my goal has been to show that people that I serve in leadership that the sky is the limit. So I'm going to fly as high as I can. And that has to come through learning. I believe leaders are readers. I believe that if you're going to lead, you've got to learn. And so I did not want to get my doctoral degree. People used to call me Dr. Joy Morgan before I would, all but cuss them out because I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
going back to school. I'm just not.
Yeah, yeah.
But I realized at some point to really get to where I wanted to go and to be able to serve the people that I have responsibility for. I owe it to them, and it's not about me. I think we all as leaders, and you talk about that growth mindset, that the learning isn't just for me, that is for the people that I coach, that I pastor, that I mentor. I owe it to them to be a better version of myself. And so when we get to that point where we realize it's not about me, then I think that we will do the selfless thing and get the education that we need to be a better version of ourselves.
Good. Because it's not about us. You're right. People are in our lives are looking to us. The generation after us is looking to us. So
Yes.
thank you again. Being that, how do you feel about as you started learning and growing your capacity? I love the word capacity. So talk about that for a second about telling people or sharing with people that we all have more capacity in us. How do you
Mhm.
start unlocking that?
Yeah, I realize that we are all born with a level, or like you said, a capacity. And I am a firm believer that we can increase it through learning. And so and I just started, one of the things about this doctoral degree that blew me away is I thought I was a great leader and still until I started learning about leadership.
Mhm.
And then after a while, when you realize what scholars are saying and all of the things that the different parts of study about it, I'm like, what the heck was I doing? I wasn't doing anything. I mean, there's so many layers to leadership that just have blown my mind through that study. And the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, if that makes any sense, right? The
Yeah.
more I learn, the more I'm like, wow. And I think what happens is we all get comfortable being the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And so my goal is to be in spaces and places where I am forced to be quiet because I can't contribute to the conversation, but I am determined to listen so that I can learn. And then when I get into another room, I can share what I heard in the room where I felt very small. And so I've really created, I've learned, again, it goes back to these connections, that when you're
Mhm.
connected to people who are further along and where you want to be, I think that in and of itself creates capacity. And when you connect yourself to people that are doing things at another level, there's something in you that says, I want that. And that's what makes me want to expand my capacity. And when I hear stories like yourself of how you were brought up and where you came from and how you started your church, that's the power of our testimony. That's the power of sharing our stories,
Yeah.
because it tells me what's possible for me. So if I can identify with your beginnings, it says to me, well, I then too can create more capacity to be a better version of myself. So I can't get away from mentorship, Bishop. It just keeps coming up probably because you're sitting across from me, but I can't get away from it. I can't get away from it. I think it matters who we're connected to, for
It
sure.
really does. I can say this personally, just watching your life and your husband's life, that it has inspired me to continue wanting to learn, to grow. No matter how old we get, we should never stop learning and growing. And that's one thing you've inspired me about, and your story will inspire others. Never stop learning and growing. How long did it take you to, because I know you were doing it online, how long did it take you to finish your doctorate degree?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. So again, your discipline, your hard work, just your, capacity, you know what, I got a vision, I got a goal, I'm going for it. So don't be discouraged if you're listening or watching, you keep after it. If you got to go online, education, get mentorship, know you got greater capacities, are all great things, Dr. Joy, which leads me to this. What got you into thinking about writing books?
Whew. Yeah. Okay. There is a story behind this. So as I mentioned, illness, I've had all throughout my adulthood, I would be sitting in church services and literally, no exaggeration, people would stop in the middle of their message from the pulpit and say, God said you're supposed to write the book. And I knew that I had a book in me, but I just was afraid to write the book because I didn't think anybody wanted to read what I had to say. But I would get confirmation after confirmation. Long story short, one of the very serious bouts of illness that I had, I'll never forget. I was in the intensive care unit and I thought I was out of here. I did. I thought I was out of here. And I literally started writing my obituary in my head. I did. And at that moment, there were things I wanted to say in the obituary, like being a doctor, like I had written books that I couldn't say because I hadn't done them. And it was at that moment that I realized I had to get up out of that sick bed because there was more for me to do.
Oh,
I got up and I said, okay, God, if you get me out of this, those five-soul words, if you
yeah.
get me out of this, I'll write the book. And a long story short, I got up out of it and I forgot about what I promised God. Do you know those symptoms started coming back like just like that? I said, oh, God, I'm so sorry. Literally, the doctor told me, no, you're going to need the surgery, whatever. I then recommitted to God. I'll write the book. I start writing the book, and they did not see what they saw in those second set of scans and never had to get the surgery.
Wow.
And that's how serious God was about, I had to get that book that has now gone to Africa, Belgium, Australia, St. Thomas, Bermuda, all across the United States, who now we are 8 conferences in, and it's become a movement that has literally changed and saved lives. That's how serious he was. And he literally had to get my attention on what could have been a deathbed to say, write that book. And once you get the first book out, now those other books start popping out a little easier. And again, my story might be about me, but it's not for me, And so that's the other side of the about me, that, yeah, okay, the story might be my story, but it's really to bless somebody else's life. So that's my journey in writing a book.
No, you said that because again, it just speaks volumes, really, Dr. Joy, because people have things in them, but you said something, we're afraid to start it, whether it might, I don't know what it could be, a book, a song, a business, whatever, but we're afraid to start it. Then we start doubting ourselves, right? And go, I
Yes.
don't know who would want to hear from me, but you're a great example of, you got so much in you, and people that are listening, watching, you have so much in you. I encourage you from this woman's story. Go for it, right?
Yes. Absolutely. You can do it. If I can do it, You can do it. And I'm telling you, don't be intimidated by your education. At the time, I wasn't a doctor. I had never been an author before. It's 105 pages, my first book is. And to see what God did with 105 pages, really what he did was he worked with a yes. And
That's
so if you
good.
give God a yes, you will totally be blessed. I didn't mean to spit bars, but I just did.
No, you just said something. I just heard this the other day. I promise you, I just heard this the other day on a podcast. 'Cause I listened to a lot of podcasts. Was the interviewer was saying he was challenged, give me a yes for a year.
Woo,
So that's
come
what God
on.
wants, right? Just give him a yes.
Just give him a yes.
That's
That's
good.
it.
That's good. We got to touch on this because, again, I know there are people that need to be encouraged. Maybe they're battling some health issues. They're facing some difficulty in life. And you have gone through a lot of valleys physically, because I know your story. And I want you to share just what you feel that would help people and how you mentally, spiritually, emotionally have battled some things that really have put you down to where you didn't think you were coming back out.
Yeah.
What did you do?
It's interesting that literally at the time of this recording that we're sharing this, I literally just got back from the doctor. I literally just got out of the hospital a couple of weeks ago, as you know, Bishop. Literally just got out of the hospital after almost a week-long stay. I am now on the other side of this story, and I'm recuperating. But I got back and I just got my follow-up visit. And she looked at me, the doctor said, you have been through a lot. And it was at that moment I could feel the tears kind of coming up to my eyes because she was looking, we were talking about the recent hospital stay, but she was looking at an old scar. And she's like, where's that from? I said, oh, yeah, I had a surgery so and so years ago. And that's when she said, you've been through a lot. And I walked out of the doctor's office and tears began to fill my eyes. And I said, God, this has been a lot. And you know what? I'm not good. I literally left the doctor's office today and said, I'm not good mentally. And to answer your question, as the Holy Spirit began to talk to me, when I admitted and totally confronted, I'm not good, he said, well, what did you do before when you were here? I got a therapist. And so when you're asking me, how have I gone through hard things? I got therapy. And so I immediately called my connect right there. After I said, okay, I need you to help me. I need some support mentally and emotionally to get through this latest, because sometimes this is the thing. What I just went through isn't half as bad as I just told you about an intensive care unit situation. This bout wasn't that bad, but sometimes it's like a feather on the top of that Jenga game, and all of a sudden everything falls apart, because after you just keep building and building and building one thing on top of the other, all it takes is one little thing that will make the whole thing crumble. And we have to have the presence of mind to admit we can't conquer what we won't confront. And it was at that moment that I realized if I don't get some support, then the whole thing is going to fall. And I'm responsible for too much. I'm a pastor. I'm a businesswoman. I'm an author. I have my own publishing company. All of these things. If I don't put my own oxygen mask on before assisting others, everybody's going to go off the plane. So I had to say to myself, I got to go do what I did before. And I literally made the decision. I'm working on it now, where I'm about to make some appointments to make sure that this is good, because we are mind, body, and spirit. And so I'm going to do the things physically, but I have to make sure that I'm also doing the things mentally and emotionally. And I feel so led to be this transparent because I believe there's somebody who is in a high profile position, such as a pastor, a leader, someone that everybody looks up to, that God has been silently wooing you to get help. But sometimes our pride will get in the way of what we need. And this is why pastors are blowing their heads off. This is why we're finding out that people are out secret alcoholics, and because we're not properly dealing with this, because the enemy wants to take us out. And if God said no, then we're the ones that can stop ourselves from being all that God has called us to be. And so get help. Get help. There's no shame in it. I've had a therapist most of my adulthood that I usually can get on speed dial. And I was trying to, I got it. I don't need, I got it. And I left that doctor's office today saying, I don't have it. I need help.
Thank you for sharing that. Because again, that's going to speak to people, like you just said. Don't let pride get in the way.
Mm-mm.
You know, the oxygen mask and the airplane analogy is so
Ooh,
powerful, right? Because we, you know, when you're in leadership and you're serving people, you know, it's always about giving, giving, giving. But we're telling people today, take care of yourself first. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's
so
selfless
good.
because Jesus said to love yourself first. So thank you for being transparent. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's going to help people today and to get help. And, you
Yes.
know, go back to your story way back and just kind of just go follow this whole thread in your life, you know, responsibility put on you to be the older sibling, you know, going to college, being steered in a direction, education, becoming a leader of leaders, you marry a man, going into ministry, starting a church from nothing to where you are today. And then from that point, you're overcoming health issues, battling through things that have tried to put you down. You're a strong woman, Dr. Joy, but yet at the same time, you admit, you know, we got to be transparent and we need help. Thank you for all that. It's so powerful. And then what you're doing now is just amazing to me because I want to talk about this for a second. Not only overcoming your health issues, but you are such a giver back into people you want to unlock their potential in their life. What caused you to get into that? Because you have a publishing company. You can talk on it for a second. Publishing company. You're inspiring people to write books, and we're going to talk about your conference in a minute. But just what in you saw? You know what? I see people, and I want them to unlock what's in them. And you're such a giver to people like that.
Yeah, I feel like your purpose is locked up in the problem that you were created to solve. And you can tell what your purpose is by the things that seem to bother you that don't bother anybody else. And so, one of the things that has always bothered me is when people don't have a sense of purpose. They don't know why they're here.
Mhm.
And it's probably because I was that person. And so once I found my purpose, it's like when you go to Macy's and find a good sale. You want to tell everybody you can get your hands on, listen, there is something to this purpose thing. And so I always tell my client to find the trunk of your tree, the core of who you are. The core of my message is purpose and destiny. And what I found out as I began to work with myself and other people is that many of the people, particularly women, but I work with everybody, but I was finding myself working with middle-aged women who were ready for transition out of their career, typically into entrepreneurship. And through entrepreneurship, they needed to know how to speak better. They wanted to write a book. And so it just kind of morphed into that. And so as people were writing their books, you know, it started out with, let me just teach you how to write a book. But then people weren't finishing the book. So I created the Finish That Book Challenge, right? Then when people would finish the book, they didn't know how to publish the book. So we were like, okay, we can help you publish the book. So hence the publishing company. So purpose begets like all of these things. So now I've got branches coming out of this purpose and destiny trunk. So now I've got a speaker academy. I've got the Talk Like a Boss program. Now I help people start their businesses and scale their businesses to six figures. But all of it comes out of what is my purpose? And then all of the branches have come out of the core of who I am.
That is good. That is good. I'm telling you, listening to this and watching this is going to just encourage people. You have so much more in you. This one woman right here has just rattled off 10, 12 things that she's doing and does it with excellence. And it's impacting other people's lives. So to your knowledge, how many people have you helped write books?
Well, I know that through my coaching program, my 90-day challenge, we're up to about 50 books. So I do know that. So I've had 50 authors in the last 5 years who have
Woo.
come through that program. So I know that for sure. But outside of that, there's been those who've taken the book, just the basic book writing course, and they kind of went on their own. Then we've got the people who have come through the publishing company that might not have gone through the challenge. So we probably got about a dozen or so more who've already, you know, we just launched in January. So we probably have about another dozen more who have come through and had their books published through My Joy Publishing. So to God be the glory. We're pushing out authors. I'm just now kicking off my next cohort of the challenge. And I'm just excited because I have pastors, leaders, doctors, doctors, medical doctors who are starting to find this publishing company, find the challenge, who are getting the help they need. So that's exciting for me. I love that coaching program that I did. It's one of my favorites.
That's amazing. It really is, because your words outlive your life.
I talk about it all the time, and I keep a Miles Monroe book near me whenever I talk to potential clients. And I say, this book right here, Miles Monroe is still speaking to us through this book, even though he's been gone from us for a few years now. And that's the legacy. And, we've talked about that, right? That, that whole other side of the story, your story is going to stay in the earth long after you're with the Lord, right? So I think that's the passion I have behind books, that your story will remain. I love that.
I love it too. That's so good. All right. So as we begin to wrap this up, I just got to talk to you about the faith it took to overcome the fear to start your Roadmap to Destiny conference that you're doing literally all over the world. I've been to several of them. They're life-changing. So encourage us and challenge us and inspire us how you took a step of faith and you started this conference. Just speak on that.
Well, the book Roadmap to Destiny, it started as a book, and I told you it kind of morphed into a movement. It's a 21-day devotional. So people were walking with me for 21 days, as we read the book together. And there were so many people that were starting to go through this devotional with me that were from all over the world. I said, well, let's have a conference and let's all meet up and let's share, and we'll have speakers. And it was going to be a one-time thing. And here we are about to have our 9th annual conference coming up in Baltimore, where your son, Jordan Poole, is one of the speakers, and you've been a speaker in the past. We honored you this past year at the conference. So it started, again, here we go again with all these buzzwords that I don't mean to say them as cliche, but vision. Vision, I think, prompted the faith. When you have vision, as you said earlier, he'll give provision for the vision. And the big thing I don't think I've touched on since we've been talking is the power of a team. And sometimes when I don't have the faith to move forward, I have a team who I have cast vision to say, you know what, Pastor, I know you're feeling a little small right now and you might not have enough faith, but let's remember what God did before. And knowing that I don't have to do it alone. And so when you have vision, one of the things I'm always getting on my clients about is, where's your team? And they hate when I ask it. They'll tell me this big idea they have, and I go, okay, so who's on the team? Oh, well, I don't have anybody on the team yet. Well, let's not even talk about the big vision until we get an effective team, because you cannot do what God has called you to do by yourself. Jesus, the Christ, the Messiah, the water walker, God with us, did not do his assignment alone. So why do we think we should?
The power of a team.
I know you could teach on this, the power of a team. And so sometimes when you talk about the faith to do it, it started with the vision, but then the provision in the form of a team has helped me to keep going, even when I wanted to quit.
Well, thank you for starting it. So you had to get started.
I had to get started.
Your 9th year. It's impacting people literally all over the world. So you have said something I caught real quick. It morphed into a movement.
Yes, it did morph into a movement. And it's amazing. I think, well, you know this, last year, let me tell you about vision. You said it attracts provision. This year, I went from doing something in Lancaster, PA, which is about an hour and a half from me. But then I came back home, because the faith to have the provision of being in a hotel and paying for speakers and all that, it's a lot. So I did it at home for a little while because I was just a little discouraged. And that's when I launched back out to Orlando. Well, this second year in Orlando, we had a lady from Alaska who came, a lady from France who did not know me from a can of paint. And we won't even talk about the people that came from Georgia that never met me in person, that did not know me, but saw a flyer and the theme spoke to them. I cannot fathom somebody getting on a plane from France to come to a conference hosted by somebody they've never met in their life. I can't. Wow. Other than the power of vision.
If people are not getting inspired by this, there's something wrong with them. Because it's just so much that you have done with your life.
Oh, gosh.
And talking about it just encourages me. it inspires me to want to do more of my life. Thank you for sharing that. So I know I got to let you go, but just, I could talk to you all day, literally, of what you're doing.
Vice versa, Bishop. Vice versa.
But just speak to somebody right now before we close on if they're feeling like quitting, they're discouraged, because I always believe that people need to be encouraged. They're discouraged, they're overwhelmed by life's challenges. What would you say to them to continue to unlock what they really have in them?
Again, their story might be about them, but it's not for them. There are people waiting for your yes. And back in 2000 and something, 6, when I was deathly ill, and all of these other times where I could have been gone, and I think about all the lives that would not have been impacted. I'm reminded of a story of a woman in Bermuda who read the book, and she was at her wit's end, and her husband had just walked out on her. She had no sense of direction in terms of career. She read the book. They put it in the Bermuda Gazette. They put this whole story in there. She read the book. She got a new lease on life. She quit her job and started the Destiny Academy to pay homage to the book. Found new love and is living this beautiful life. She came to one of the conferences just to share her testimony. And when I think of people like that, and I think about, what if I had quit? What if I decided to die in that bed? What if I had given up? If it wasn't just for her, but I've got a million stories like that. I want somebody to listen today and be encouraged to know that your life is bigger than what you're experiencing right now. And that if you're still here, if you still got a breath, then you've still got a purpose. And so get up. I just preached this series at church. Get up and live. Get up.
Get up and live.
Get up and live.
I just love that. Man, thank you. Those are great encouraging words you just said. Get up and live. And somebody needs you to live, right?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
How can people follow you? I want everybody to follow you and get your material, your books, take your courses. So give us how they can follow you.
JoyMorganMotivates.com, www.joymorganmotivates.com. They can email me at joymorganmotivates@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram at joymorganmotivates. And on Facebook, you can just find me at Joy Morgan. Yeah.
I'm telling everybody, you need to follow this woman. You'll be challenged. Join her for her programs. Get her coaching, whatever it takes, man. Dr. Joy, thank you. You have been a great inspiration today. Thank you for coming on. I know you've are not at 100%, but you are talking like you're 150%. Believe me.
Because his strength is made perfect in my weakness.
Again, I really honor you and thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Bishop. And can I just say, I know you didn't call me to do this, but I can't say it enough, Bishop, that you and your covering and your mentorship, I am a spiritual daughter. I will forever be a spiritual daughter. And so any success that you see on my life, I need you to know that we most certainly attribute it to the connection that we have with you. So thank God for you and being in our life.
Thank you so much. That honors me. I appreciate it. It blesses me. I just want to be able to carry your luggage. That's all.
That's good.
All right, y'all. Thank you for joining this episode of The Other Side of the Story. Tune in next week for another exciting story. God bless you.